along the time that a lot of kids in high school started drinking and experimenting with drugs, and finding out that he had a mental illness that I didn't know a lot about. I started doing a lot of research on it, and I found that mental illnesses such as bipolar and schizophrenia can not necessarily be caused by smoking marijuana or using drugs, but if you're already predisposed to it, then it could set it off. So finding that out in a way actually really scared me away from drinking and using drugs. I didn't take my first sip of alcohol till halfway through my senior year of high school because I was scared that I was going to lose touch with reality. And after I found out how much I liked drinking when I started it, I thought if it's going to happen, it's going to happen anyways. And so that was kind of just saying, fuck it. I'm gonna put everything that I can into my body and try to, I don't know, get rid of that anxiety and uncertainty because we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And I think we not all go through that, but when you're younger, especially, because did you think that maybe you were going to have the same issue as your father one day?
I guess that it was definitely on my mind because bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, just like other diseases, does have a genetic component. It's genetic and environmental. I believe, I'm not a scientist, but I think there is a statistic that about 10% of people who have a direct relative, whether it be a father, mother, brother, sister, who has that disorder, they're about 1 in 10 will probably develop it, which, I mean, that's not great odds. It's more than the 1 in 100 that from the general population if you do not have a family member. And so I guess it was something that I thought about quite a bit, especially as a young high schooler with a lot of natural anxiety and depression, because that's like, I don't know. I've always been kind of a little bit of a hypochondriac. It's kind of a thing about me. That once I start WebMDing and Googling something, your mind can play tricks on almost anything.
Yeah, it's probably not the best thing to do if you're hypochondriac, because this hurts, and then you can use the the little body, and you hit that section, and it's like, it could be all this, and you're like, oh my god, I'm going to be dead in a week.
Right, and then all of a sudden you're going into the doctor using the DSM-5 terms to describe your cold.
You're like, I just need some antibiotics. And I'm like, no, you don't. It's a sinus infection, kid. Like, no, it's not. Just give me some anyway. But that's cool that you have knowledge and research of that topic. That's something that I don't have very much of. So that's pretty cool, man. And I know one thing, though. I thought I was bipolar because I would go 3 months relapse, 5 months relapse, a week relapse. And it was just a cycle. And I got to the point where I thought I was losing it, man. And one doctor was like, you're borderline. But I didn't know this at the time. But kind of when you're in active addiction like I was with drinking and you come out of it, you are a little crazy. Like, your body's like, whoa, what's going on? I need that alcohol.
That's why a lot of people, when they have dual diagnoses and they go to treatment centers, they really can't, diagnose somebody with what's going on until after they've had that time, to detoxify and have their minds clear a little bit, because you might not have a serious disorder like bipolar or schizophrenia, but we're all a little bit crazy when we're in active addiction.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And I just wanted to clarify, too, that when speaking about bipolar disorder, that I am not an expert by any means, and I am not diagnosed with it. Because if somebody listening does think they have it or does suffer from this disorder, I know they probably don't like hearing people talk about having a bad day and feeling a little bit down and saying, I'm feeling bipolar, because that's completely not okay either. And I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't trying to insinuate that I knew everything about a disease or disorder that somebody else may have.
That's cool that you would even say that, because to me it didn't come off like that. But I'm sitting next to you, I'm looking at you. But you're right, somebody listening who is diagnosed with that might say, oh, they don't know what it's like. And you're not trying to say you know what it's like. You're just trying to say, hey, my father is this, and you don't, a little bit about the topic. And like I said, I don't really know much about that at all, except for the doctor, and then saying that, a lot of people coming off alcohol, we get that one time I went from Grand Rapids to South Bend to pick out an engagement ring for this girl I've been dating for like 2 or 3 months. And the doctor said something about, have you done anything that just doesn't make any sense? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, you're kind of borderline, you got some traits that, or you could be bipolar. And I'm like, what? And then so I just started kind of believing it, like, oh, maybe I am. Maybe I'm, and not saying crazy, but maybe maybe there's something wrong, and that's what's wrong with me. It was an excuse for me to go, oh, it's not the alcohol's fault. I had a therapist tell me one time, he's like, you're protecting the alcohol, man. He's like, you're putting like this little force field around it. Like you're blaming everybody. It's everybody's fault that you did this, but it's never the alcohol's fault. I was willing to say, yeah, I'm bipolar, instead of saying, yeah,
I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, I can't drink. I am an addict. I am addicted. I take that first sip, it is over. If I'm in the hospital 3-4 days later until I'm out of money.
And that's that's always been the case for me. Like I said, I had a pretty late start with drinking, but I could never drink normally. I could black out off of any amount of booze. Like I could find a way to do it. I feel like I had a lot of fun in the beginning, but after that honeymoon phase is over and nothing else adds up and compares to the feeling that you are when you're loaded, it starts to take a toll.
Mm-hmm. And you got to keep chasing it because, well, then you lose your job or you lose your relationship or your life starts to fall apart, and maybe not right away. And I'm sure it does faster for some people. But some people can hold it together. We were at a meeting tonight, and the guy was talking about, what was his name, Chris Herron. He's got a new movie out. It's called, like, The First Day, where he asked people to bring him a picture of somebody who's an addict. And everybody brings, a picture of, like, the guy who was on the street, homeless, lost everything. And like, here you go. Well, that's somebody in the final stages, of their addiction. He wanted people to bring him a picture, but here's the picture. If you would show a picture, hey, here's me when I first started using. But, oh, he looks like a healthy young man, like that's what people would say. They don't think of they could see us at a store, and I've heard this, and I'm sure you've heard it or will hear it. Parker, you too. Oh, you don't look like you'd have a problem. What does that even mean?
Exactly. Like I hear it all the time, especially from people, friends at college, former hockey teammates that I played with when I first told them that, I was going to treatment because I was going to get help because I didn't think I could stop on my own. And the whole just perception of somebody who has an issue, it's you think of that person on the corner who is destitute and has nothing else, but that's the worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people, if they don't get help, when they feel they need it, people are dying, and it's a serious thing. I know that besides maybe my mom and a couple people super super close to me, nobody knew how bad it was for me. I mean, I guess. There were a couple people that I was close with and friends with at college who knew that I'd been hospitalized. I've been hospitalized 3 times for getting too fucked up and basically either getting a minor in possession, getting arrested, and getting taken to the drunk tank or the hospital. And at that point, I was 20 and 21 years old, you could make that excuse that, hey, you know what, I'm in college and I'm an inexperienced drinker and, I don't really have an issue with it. Because a lot of the people in my social circle were people that I played hockey with. We partied a lot. And I had people that probably drank just as quite as often as I did. We'd go to the bar 3 or 4 nights a week. But what people don't see is when it's a Tuesday or it's a Monday night and or it's a Thursday and people do want to go to the bar and you want to but you know that if you go to the bar and you made an ass of yourself the week before and you blacked out, you didn't remember anything, that you're not going to be able to get as drunk as you did the last week, or people are going to stop being friends with you. So you make excuses for going out, and then all of a sudden, I'd rather get fucked up in my room by myself because I can get as drunk as I possibly want to, and And it's a slippery slope. Like, you said it doesn't happen overnight, but it starts.
Yeah, it grabs a hold and it's done. Now imagine, our drug of choice, alcohol. I mean, I've done tons of other things, but imagine somebody showing up at work. Imagine young Parker here. We'll just take him because he's a young kid. And I guess you're a young kid too. But you show up at work and you're just dragging ass, and people are like, "Oh, look at him. Yeah, he's got one of those heroin hangovers again. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, he'll learn his lesson one day. Yeah, it's Tuesday, and then the next week, oh, it must have been dollar heroin shots at the bar, like, no, then it's that's a problem. But alcohol, nope, that's what happens. People show up, oh, he's just hungover again. Was it ladies' night again? You're out chasing that poontang, and it's a fun and game thing, but really it's bad. If we set a different standard of, no, that's not acceptable. I don't care if you're in college. How about we change that mentality? And when I have a son, that's what I'm going to do. When I have a daughter, geez, I hope I just have a son. I know. But that's, I'm going to say, look, no, college is where you go to learn. Other people might be partying. That's stupid. Do you want to have a good, successful life? Don't do what your dad did. People looked at me and, oh, you're successful. You're in radio. You met these guys. You did this. You introduced that band. Like, oh my God. All right. I was sad. I was lonely. I'd go home. I'd close that door and go to my fridge, or my freezer. And there was no glasses. Why would I dirty a glass, And then it went from fifths to half gallons, and sometimes I'd buy 2 at a time, and especially if it was a weekend, because I'm not running out. It's just sad.
Right.
And I don't want my kids to live that way. But if we change the perception or the mentality of it all, I think it would change a lot of things.
Right. And in your example, you use college as an example. Like, you hope that whenever you have kids, if I have kids someday, that they realize, like, I don't have to do this. Like, this doesn't have to be a part of, my college experience. But to take it another step before that, I would say in college, when they're 18, when they're out of the house, I mean, you can educate all you want and stuff, but if somebody's going to drink, they're going to drink. And if you can drink normally and drink healthy and, it doesn't impact your life, all power to you, I say.
Right.
But the thing that I've noticed was an issue, I don't know if it was like this when you were in high school, but the people who's, you always have the cool parents, at the house who says, you know what, like, kids are going to drink wherever, but I don't want them to drive so they can drink at my house. Like, in theory, that sounds like you're being a good parent, you're being a smart parent. You're saying that I don't want somebody to be killed in a tragedy, like drunk and driving.
Right.
But when you have a group of 15, 16, 17-year-old kids who are brains are still developing, some of them might be predisposed to addiction. The majority are probably not. The majority are probably going to grow up to be healthy adults. But you have somebody that 1 in 10, that maybe 2 in 10, who they take that drink and when they're 15 and 16, and they're in a house that could have been prevented, that could have been supervised by an adult. All of a sudden, they're like, it sets off that little addiction trigger. They're like, wow, this feels really good. And nothing else just matches up to it.
Right.
And I just really think that the whole culture of laughing it off, it's like you said, I don't think I haven't ever heard of a cool parent letting kids shoot up or
right.
snort coke in their house, but
yet, they're all drugs. Alcohol's a drug. And of course it's not supposed to happen, but I don't know. I just think that, but it's legal. Okay. So yes, if you break your leg, you can go to the doctor and get pills for that too. My mom found that out. She had knee replacement surgery, and she started to not take her pain meds, and she started feeling that sick, that dope sick as they call it. And it scared her. She's like, I could exactly see why somebody would, keep going to the bottle. Now, she didn't say she'd pick up a needle, but you don't know. And she doesn't know, you know.